Hi YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 24 of Vlogmas and Merry Christmas Eve to everyone who's celebrating and Happy Holidays, or just hope you're having a good Sunday for anyone who isn't. So today, first of all, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing today and then what I generally, just traditional wise, have always done for Christmas Eve over the years since I was a child. So today, because I always celebrate Christmas Eve for Christmas rather than Christmas Day, and it's sort of more of a German, or it might be just a European thing, but I know it's just based off of my grandmother's German traditions and everything, that they always had a big feast on Christmas Eve. And then, as I mentioned in a previous video, that her dad would like hustle all the kids out of sight, and they'd close the parlor doors on their living room, and he'd bring in the tree, set up the tree, put all the presents under the tree, and then at midnight is when the parlor doors would open, and you know, as if magic, there's a tree with candles lit on it and all the presents that the kids would get and everything. And I mean, they weren't made of money either, they weren't wealthy either, they were fairly poor. I mean, my great-grandmother had given birth to about 9 children. According to the records, it's 10, but the youngest, I think, I'm 99.9% sure the youngest is my grandmother's son. And actually my uncle, and not, yeah, so that's another story for another time. Let's not get into that tangent today. But they had a large family. I believe the dad worked as a butcher, and the mom worked as a social worker, so they were a 2-income household back then. My grandmother was born in 1910, so you can see this is a long time ago, but they, you know, they had a lot of kids, and they had to feed those kids somehow, so both of them had to work. So the whole thing of a 2-income household and things, and like, you know, not everyone was able to afford being a stay-at-home mom, even back in those days. I mean, it's the stereotype that women, you know, in the good old days would stay home and take care of the kids while the father went out to work, but that wasn't always the case. In impoverished families, very often both worked to bring money in so that they could feed the kids. It just, you know, was a fact of life. If you were a farmer, you know, farmer's wife, I mean, works just as hard as her husband, you know, doing various things around the farm and everything. So I mean, it's such a false perception that women have in the past. All women were always subservient and stayed home and just popped out babies and things. Anyhow, we're getting off topic, aren't we? Yes, we are. Gee, what a surprise. Alright, so today, just to talk about today, I am having friends over. I tend to have my stray friends who don't have homes to go to for Christmas, and they come over for dinner, and I usually make a leg of lamb. My grandmother always had leg of lamb for Christmas, and so that's to me, that's Christmas dinner, so I will have a leg of lamb. This year I'm making mashed potatoes on the side, and I love my grandmother's mashed potatoes. She always made them super fluffy, and the number one pet peeve I have of people when I go to their houses, and I never say a word, I don't complain. They're feeding me, I'm grateful, whatever, but when people just mash their potatoes with water and salt, yuck. I'm sorry, that is so boring and plain. You gotta put some butter or milk or something in. Okay, if you're a vegan, I can understand, but most of the people that I've had these watery potatoes from were not vegan. I mean, we were having prime rib and then watery mashed potatoes and whatnot. So it's like, really? Come on, put a little milk in there, a little butter. I always use either half and half or heavy whipping cream when I do it, just to get that nice rich flavor. And then my grandmother's secret ingredient for mashed potatoes was to use a little bit of onion salt. And I think I mentioned this before, that I can't find onion salt anywhere, so I have to use onion powder instead, which, you know, with the onion salt, I always knew exactly how much onion salt to use, so I wouldn't over salt or under salt the potatoes and just have just the right amount of flavor. But now I have to do onion powder, and I have to figure out like, well, how much onion powder do I need versus salt and everything else, and trying to get the right balance. And so it's a bit trickier. I mean, they still come out pretty good, but it's annoying because I just kind of like keep having to add. I just add a little at a time, and I taste, and I add a little at a time and taste until I get the taste right. And so I really do have to go online and see if I can find onion salt like on Amazon or something, because it's driving me crazy not to have onion salt in the house. It was like my grandmother's big secret ingredient. She used it in like everything, but in mashed potatoes especially, and that's where I really like the onion salt, is in mashed potatoes. So I'm also making Belgian endive on the side, and Belgian endive, I mean, it's a leaf lettuce type vegetable, and they come in like this kind of a shape. They're kind of like a I'm gonna say a bullet shape, but you know, they're oblong shaped, and you can use them in salad. You can just chop them up and put them in salad and things. You can just eat them raw. But my grandmother always boiled them, so you can eat them cooked. And you can also, and I've done this before with some of the some basket meals I've eaten, because they've had Belgian endive in there, where you can just put them in a pan and kind of roast them in a pan a little bit with a little bit of oil and salt, and that comes out as well. And you can do that with romaine and a number of different types of leaf lettuce type things. Not all leaf lettuce works well that way. Other ones you just kind of have to break up and let wilt. But you can eat any kind of lettuce warm if you want it to. Most people eat it cold in a salad, but you can also eat it warm. And the Belgian endive I really do like boiled in salt water, and it's got a little bit of a bitter taste to it, and cooking the Belgian endive kind of takes a lot of the bitter out of the leaves, and so I think that's probably why I like it, and it makes it more tender and everything. And you can just kind of you just boil them whole, and then you can just serve them whole and slice them with a knife and fork when you're eating them. And I don't know, I always like those, and those were always a special treat because they're always a little bit more expensive. So for me, it's kind of like a fancy thing. And then what else? I've got, well, obviously I'm gonna mash potatoes and the endive and the gravy, so and the lamb. So that's gonna be the main meal. But then I have a whole lot of goodies from Germany for dessert, because my relatives always send me sweets. So I'm gonna have a whole plate full of German sweets that we can nibble on as well. My one aunt always makes a I just call it the Schokoladenusskuchen or the Weihnachtskuchen, because she has been sending this cake in a Christmas package to me or to my family since before I was born. And so it's basically, it looks kind of like you would imagine like zucchini bread or banana bread. It's kind of a bread cake, because it's in a bread loaf shape, but it is a cake. And it's basically a nut cake. So she uses ground nuts in the dough, and then chocolate chips in it. And they're not like the type of chocolate chips that we have. She actually just buys blocks of chocolate and then cuts them into bits and sticks them in the dough when she bakes it. So and it's a different kind of chocolate than when I eat the cake, and it's definitely European chocolate, and it's definitely not a kind of chocolate I've ever had in the US. It's a milk chocolate, but it just has its own little unique taste to it, and it's really good. I really like it. But it's not just like Hershey's chocolate chips or anything like that. But it is literally chips of chocolate that she's hand chipped herself. So there's always going to be that. And then I haven't actually opened all of the packages yet. Most of it's still wrapped under the tree, but one package came burst open, so I've already been nibbling on those, and they were rum balls. So, and these were pre-bought rum balls. They weren't homemade rum balls, but they're really good. I really like them. And then I did open another package because I felt like it, and it was marzipan, and kind of a black cherry filling covered in chocolate. And I haven't eaten all of those yet, but also really good. So I've got lots of dessert, and my friends are gonna bring appetizers. I don't know. They usually bring veggies and dips, so we'll probably have that as an appetizer. And then obviously we have all the obligatory booze, although to be perfectly honest, my friends don't really drink booze. He might drink some of the beer that I still have in the fridge that I can't drink anymore, but beyond that, yeah, I don't, I will probably have wine with dinner, and they're free to have wine with dinner if they want to, but I don't think they like wine, so they're probably not gonna have any wine. And then I usually like to have a little bit of brandy as a digestif after the meal, and I'll probably have coffee with dessert. So, but they will probably just have tea, just knowing my friends. Anywho, so that's what I'm doing tonight. We're gonna hang out. I'm gonna cook. We're gonna have dinner. We're gonna watch a movie together later. That kind of thing. So just a nice kind of relaxing, no stress evening. They're good friends of mine, so. While I am going to have a clean house, if I have a couple of stray dust bunnies that I missed or something, I'm not going to feel mortified over it because they're good friends of mine. They're here almost every weekend anyway, and such. And my dogs love them. In fact, they're already excited every time I mention their names. The dogs are like, "Ooh, they're coming." So it's going to be a good evening. In the past, obviously, like I said, Christmas Eve is the day to celebrate. And when I was a kid, when I was really little, we always did this at our apartment. And my uncle would come for Christmas dinner, and we'd have the packages, because like I said, we always get a package from Germany, from our relatives. It's from my grandmother's nephew. His name is Adolf, and no, he was not named after Hitler. He was actually named after his dad, who was also named Adolf, which happened to be a really popular name in Germany back in those days. Go figure. Obviously, they stopped calling kids Adolf after World War II was over with, but until then, it was a popular name. And my grandmother's sister really didn't give two hoots about Hitler. But she really, really loved her husband, and her husband actually went missing in action. To this day, he is still declared missing in action. Obviously, he passed away. She actually lived to be 105, so she lived a long time, and he would have been like 110 or something because he was older than her. So if somehow he had survived, he's long gone at this point, one way or the other. And Uncle Adolf is, let's see, I'm trying to think, I think he's older than my uncle, because they're of the same generation. But my uncle's going to be 70 in 2018, he's 69 now, and Uncle Adolf, I'm thinking he's like 72 or 73. So, of that generation and stuff. My uncle was born after World War II in 1948, and obviously, since my great aunt, her husband went missing in action during the war. Obviously, she had the son before he went missing, so he was born during the war. And I honestly don't remember if he was born like before the war started, or which would determine exactly how old he was, or if he was born like maybe the husband got a leave and they were able to get pregnant and stuff while he was on leave or something. But I don't think there was a lot of leave during the war, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I really don't know. I don't know the full timeline there. But regardless, he's kind of the family historian. He's kept the family tree. He's always updating it and everything. And he loves staying on top of how everyone's doing in the family and who's doing what, and celebrating everyone's successes and everything, and just staying in touch with everyone. So it's one of the reasons why I still get Christmas packages every year, which is really amazing. And I usually send something. A few years ago we changed it so, because they said, look, you don't have to keep sending us gifts. I'm like, well, I want to send something. So instead of sending gifts to everyone, I was just like, oh, let me at least send gifts to the kids. because his daughter has 3 kids. And so I'm like, come on, let me at least send the kids gifts. And so I've been sending them gifts for years, but the oldest now is 21, 18 or 21, I forget, but she's pretty much an adult at this point. The next one is 16 and the youngest is 12. So they're certainly a little bit too old. I mean, obviously the 12 and 16-year-old, especially the 12-year-old might still appreciate getting gifts and everything, but this year, just because my budget's been really tight, I just like, you know what, I want to be fair to all my nieces and nephews, and so I decided no one is getting gifts for me this year, because if I give one a gift, I need to give everyone a gift. I wouldn't feel right leaving somebody out. So I said, look, my budget's really tight, and I've got the 3 kids in Germany, I've got my niece and nephew in Chicago, and I've got a nephew here in Colorado, and I kind of by extension might have a new niece as well, because my brother-in-law's sister-in-law had a baby, if that makes any sense, or my brother-in-law's sister-in-law's wife actually had a baby. So I don't quite know how that works, how whether or not I would be considered family there or not at this point. But I would, I did attend the baby shower, and I got them baby gifts and everything else, because, I see them at all the holidays and everything, and I consider them acquaintances at least, if not friends. And we're friends on Facebook and stuff. So it's like, of course I'm going to, if I'm going to give one child a gift, it's like, here, Merry Christmas, here, only you get something. Sorry, you're not a relative, you don't get anything. Like, who does that? I mean, I know some people do, but I'm not going to do that. So yeah, so that's always been a tradition, is getting the Christmas package and then kind of gathering around. And what we would do is we'd have the dinner, we'd have dessert, we'd sit around and we'd listen to Christmas albums on the record player that we had. And sometimes we'd even get carolers, and the carolers would come up into our apartment and sing for us, which was kind of cool. And this was in Chicago. I mean, I don't think people do that anymore in Chicago. Maybe they do, I don't know. But I know they were doing it in the 70s, which is kind of cool. I actually even have a photo of it, but it's not one that I have digitally scanned, so I can't show that one. But, and for me, one of my favorite Christmas albums isn't a Christmas album at all. So yeah, the album I'm thinking of is by a artist named Freddie Quinn. He was a popular pop singer back in the early 60s in Germany, so no one here has ever heard of him. And he actually did a number of movies. He actually did a movie with Jane Mansfield. It was a German movie, and she apparently tried to speak German in the movie. I only have the album of the movie. It's a movie that I can't find anywhere. Heimweh nach St. Pauli is the name of the movie, and I have not been able to find it anywhere online. So I'm thinking even for pay, it's like I've not been able to find that one. It's a really rare movie, and I have one of the most rare of his albums, mainly because it was never very popular. So just because it's rare doesn't mean it's valuable, just because it's a rare album. But it's a rare album in this case because it's not popular. Because like I said, he was a very popular pop singer he was a crooner back in the 60s. And pretty much almost every single one of his albums that were produced in the 60s and 70s are available on CD now. You can buy them. I can buy, there's a number of them that are available even on Amazon and that kind of thing. So he was popular enough that there's still a following of his music, at least in Germany. And this one album, nope, it's never been recreated digitally onto CDs or anything like that. It's because it probably just didn't sell very well, and so the record company's like, well, we're not gonna try and promote it again. But it's basically an album of old German folk songs, and it has a song on there that was apparently my great-grandmother's favorite song, and so therefore it was my grandmother's favorite song. But there's a whole bunch of different old German folk songs on there. And to me, it's Christmas music, because the only time we ever played the darn thing was at Christmas. So even though there's no Christmas theme whatsoever to any of the songs, to me, it's still Christmas music. You know, it's you know, tradition, like all these different things, tradition that you have as a kid. And if it's a tradition that you always did on Christmas and only Christmas, then it becomes a Christmas tradition regardless of if it has anything to do with the holiday. Which is probably how a lot of the secular parts of the holiday have come about. And, you know, to be perfectly honest, I mean, a lot of Christmas traditions come from ancient Germanic pagan rituals and things from long before Christ ever supposedly existed. So, you know, that's actually one of my biggest reasons of why, you know, as an atheist, you know, besides just having really good memories of Christmas and therefore I celebrate the holiday because it brings me good memories, but also I am of Germanic heritage and, you know, I grew up speaking German. My grandmother was born in Germany. My mom was born in Frankfurt. She was like 9 years old when they came to the US. And so for me, I have a lot of German traditions and memories and everything, and it just culturally in my life because I grew up with it. And so I see no reason why I shouldn't celebrate a lot of the German Christmas traditions, because a lot of the traditions stem from long before Christianity existed. So there's that. So for anyone who has a problem with an atheist celebrating Christmas, yeah, and so just to move on with everything. So, like I said, early on we did that at our apartment, and then when my uncle got married in 1978, I believe, is it 78 or 79 is when they got married, and then they bought a house the next year, and so they started having us come out to their house for Christmas instead of coming into the city for Christmas. And so I think initially we kind of rotated like every other year, and then eventually, I think after my grandfather passed away, we just started going out to my uncle's for Christmas every year, which was kind of fun. So they'd come pick us up and we'd drive out to the suburbs, and here's a really cool memory. So because they would actually always make the leg of lamb, and we'd pretty much do a very similar tradition of sitting down and opening gifts after dinner, and usually didn't wait till midnight because they didn't want to drive us all the way home at midnight and everything. I mean, we'd still stay pretty late. I think it was like 10 o'clock when we went home. But yeah, we just have dinner and dessert, and then probably watch a movie, and then we'd open gifts. And so that's kind of how our Christmas Eves went. But on the way home, every year on the way home, when my uncle would drive us back, he played the same CD in his car. I don't know why it was always the same one, but it was always, and I don't know if he only ever played this on Christmas or not, but it was a George Winston album. It was the Autumn George Winston album. Why autumn and not winter? I don't know, but that's the album he always played. It was his favorite George Winston album, I believe. And it's become my favorite George Winston album. And again, just like the Freddie Quinn album, to me it's a Christmas album because I associate it with Christmas. In fact, when he would drive us home after everything, he would always stop. There were a couple of neighborhoods along the way before we got into the city that had like really beautiful Christmas lights displays on the houses, and so we would always drive through and enjoy all the pretty Christmas lights in the different neighborhoods before they took us all the way back home, which was kind of cool. So yeah, so to me that's Christmas Eve, is all of those types of fond, happy memories. Tomorrow I'll probably talk about what my Christmas day was like as a kid, and conclude Vlogmas tomorrow. So I hope everyone is having a wonderful Christmas Eve. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas day tomorrow, and until tomorrow, take care. Bye-bye.